Hello, good day everyone. So, for the finals, we will discuss about drug elimination, clearance, and renal clearance. You all know that elimination process involves two mechanisms. First is the metabolism, which involves the liver mostly, and then the renal clearance, which involves kidney. So, we will focus more on the kidney because tapos na tayo sa liver. Let's discuss two key organs responsible for drug elimination in the body, your liver and kidneys. While drug elimination can occur throughout the body, these two organs are the primary players in this process, the elimination process. Focusing on the kidney, it serves as a principal excretory organ responsible for removing metabolic waste products from the body because you know na kidney is by volume, malaki siya. And then by organ received or organ perfusion, malaki rin yung blood na pumapasok sa kanya. So, mataas yung organ perfusion niya. So, remember that drugs are present in your blood. That's why the kidney is the principal organ for excretion. Beyond this, the kidney plays a critical role in regulating the body's fluid volume and electrolyte balance. This involves excreting excess water, electrolytes, and waste products while conserving essential solutes necessary for optimal physiological function. So, aside from knowing the function of the kidney in renal excretion, it is also important to know its location, its anatomical location in the body, and to know how big your kidney is because the volume of the kidney will affect its function later. For example, you have a kidney problem and then your kidney will shrink because normally our kidney is in an adult, non-healthy adult, 10 to 12 centimeters in length, 5 to 6 centimeters in width, 120 to 200 grams in weight. So if you have some kidney problems, some of the kidneys will shrink and it will affect the blood flow through the kidney, which also affects the function of the kidney to filter the organ, I mean the blood. So additionally, the kidney performs two vital endocrine functions. First, it secretes renin. So you know that renin plays a role in the regulation of blood pressure. Second, it produces erythropoietin, which stimulates the production of red blood cells. This is the reason why most of the patients having renal problem, they develop anemia because kidneys affect other diseases. Now, the kidney disease will affect the erythropoietin production, which is necessary for RBC production also or synthesis. So please review your RAA system, how the renin affects the regulation of your blood pressure and the regulation of your fluid in the body. So these functions highlights the kidney's dual role as both an excretory and regulatory organ, which are very essential for maintaining homeostasis in the body. So aside from the principal excretory organ, no, mga mag-remove ng mga waste product, they are also an essential part of the endocrine system, especially in regulating the blood pressure. Now let's turn our attention to the anatomy and functional organization of the kidneys. The kidneys are situated within the peritoneal cavity, as illustrated in the figure on the left, and which provide a general view and figure on the center. So yung figure sa left, makikita mo na ang kidney is nasa peritoneal cavity siya. And then in the center, this is the kidney. Ito yung kidney na nasa peritoneal cavity together with your bladder. Tsaka above your kidney is your adrenal gland. They are supplied with your renal arteries and renal veins. And kidneys are retroperitoneally located, meaning nasa likod sila ng peritoneum. Within the peritoneum, pero nasa likod. And this naman, this is now the, it provides a general view of your kidney. Remember the specific parts of the kidney. You have here the cortex. This is the thickest part. You have here the medulla, the inner part. Ito yung cortex, the outer part, tsaka yung medulla, inner part. Ito yung medulla. And their calyxes. In calyxes, lahat ng mga fluids na na-collect from this, no, from the nephron, they will flow here sa calyx. And then from calyx, so lahat ng mga fluids na kolekta from the nephrons, papasok sila dito sa ureter. And then they are supplied by your renal arteries and renal veins. Then this image is your the basic unit of the kidney, the nephron. Ito yung basic unit ng kidney, nephron. If the liver, may basic unit ng liver. So liver, basic unit niya, liver lobule. Si lungs naman, merong alveolus. Kidney, meron siyang nephron. So here is the actual filtration of the blood happens. Okay? Ito yung actual filtration na nangyayari. Specifically dito sa glomerulus, ang part na ito. Ito yung glomerulus. Okay? Yung kumpul-kumpul ng mga blood vessels dyan. Later we will discuss further how the blood filtered in the nephron. So structurally, the kidney is divided into two distinct regions, the outer cortex and the inner medulla. These regions houses the nephrons. Ito, nephrons. So, bale dito yung mga nephrons dyan. Ito, nandiyan yung mga nephrons. Yan, mga nephrons yan. Dito, nephrons. Yan, mga nephrons yan. Many nephrons. Which, these nephrons serves as the kidney's basic functional units. Nephrons are integral to the kidney's primary functions because they remove metabolic waste and regulation of water and electrolyte balance. Remarkably, each kidney contains approximately 1 to 1.5 million of nephrons. The glomerulus, the starting point of each nephron, is located in the cortex. There are two main types of the nephron, the cortical nephrons and juxtamedullary nephrons. Cortical nephrons are characterized by their short loops. Kung sabihin natin cortical nephrons, yung mga nephrons na hindi umaabot hanggang sa medulla. Dito lang sila. Yan. Mga cortical nephrons. But when we say the juxtamedullary, these nephrons extend up to the medulla. Ito yung mas mahahaba or mas deeper yung reach nila. The extended loops of Henle in juxtamedullary nephrons enhances their capacity to reabsorb water, enabling the production of more concentrated urine. This distinction highlights the cortical role of nephron structure in the kidney's ability to maintain water balance and overall hemostasis. Again, this is another figure of your nephron. So, actual unit where eliminations take place or the filtrations take place. Then, there is about 1 million nephrons or Malpighian bodies. Then, there are parts of the nephrons, your capillary and tubule. Later, Ano tong mga capillaries? Ano tong mga tubules? Okay? Then capillaries, no, glomerular, these are glomerulus surrounded by your Bowman's capsule. Ito yung tinutukoy, yung glomerulus. Yung pula dyan, yung kumpul-kumpul na blood vessels, that is the glomerulus. At saka, yung nag-surround na yellow na yan, that is your Bowman's capsule. So, what are the tubular part of your nephrons? I know that you're very familiar with these parts because tapos na kayo sa anatomy, tapos na kayo sa Pickle 1, saka tapos na kayo sa anti-hypertension, I think, during pharmacology. So, na-discuss na ninyo yung RAAS system. Ang part doon is the introduction of this glomerulus. So, yung part ng tubular part ng glomerulus, ito yung proximal, yung pinakauna, after the capsule, siya yung unang part ng tube, which is the proximal tubule. Next is the loop of Henle. Ito. This one is the loop of Henle. Then the distal convoluted tubule. Then collecting ducts through the ureter. Okay? So, sa ureter, siya na yung daan or siya yung nagko-connect ng kidney sa yung urinary bladder. Urinary bladder kung saan yun na where it stores your urine. So, this is the more magnified view of your nephron. Di ba nga, meron tayong dalawang parts, major parts of the nephron, the tubular part and then the capillary part. And then your capillary part composed of your glomerulus. This is the glomerulus. Ito, yung sinasabi ko yung nakumpul-kumpul. Okay? So, saan yung galing? So, let's trace it. So, galing sa renal artery, it will branch to a more smaller artery. That is what we call arterioles. The small artery or arterioles that enters your nephron is what we call the afferent arterioles. Okay, afferent arterioles. Papasok siya dyan. Let's erase. So, artery, tapos mababranch out siya, magiging arteriole. So, yung arteriole na papasok sa nephron, ito yung afferent arteriole. Yung afferent arterioles na yan, it will fold itself. Kung nakita nyo, it fold siya ng mga arterioles. Ang fold na yan ay tinatawag nating glomerulus. Tsaka kapag lumabas siya sa yung nephron or sa capsule, ang tawag sa kanya, efferent. Again, nagiging efferent arteriole siya. This efferent arteriole will branch out or divide. Magdi-divide siya at saka it will surround the tubule. Tingnan nyo naman, para niyang pinalibutan yung tubules. Later, i-discuss natin how important these tubules, these capillaries na nagso-surround sa yung tubules. So, they are now called peritubular capillary. So, the peritubular capillary are branched from your efferent arteriole. Another figure showing the arterial blood or blood supply of your nephron. So, the part here, this is the tubular part. And then, if you can trace this one, the red and then the blue. Red one is the artery and then the blue one is the vein. So these are the blood supply. of your nephron. Okay, let's discuss now the process or mechanism how the filtration happens in your glomerulus. Let's highlight the glomerulus, this one. Again, glomerulus, no? They are blood vessels. As you can see here, this is the glomerulus. Ito, yung naka-point. And then, so, how the filtration happens? So, there are what we call the intracapillary pressure or your hydrostatic pressure. If you can still remember the hydrostatic pressure, okay, di ba na-remember niyo yung hydrostatic pressure? These are the important pressure for your polar substances to evacuate your blood vessels. So, ang mangyayari, di ba nga yung blood vessel natin, meron silang cell membrane, and these cell membranes are lipid-loving. Pero, most of the waste products and most of the metabolites are polar. So, paano siya na-filtrate sa nephron? So, very important here is your intracapillary pressure. So, ito yung isang, the pressure that is responsible here is the hydrostatic pressure. Meaning, the hydrostatic pressure of the intracapillary or yung sa loob ng capillary, sa loob ng glomerulus is greater than the pressure outside the glomerulus or the pressure in a tubular lumen. Okay? So, ito yung the blue one, if you can trace, this is the glomerulus, right? This is the capillary. Ito. And this green one, these are the spaces. Okay, ito yung space. Ito yung tubular lumen. Ito yung space. Yan yung space. Tapos, yung space na yan, ito na yung may yan yung sumpay itong imuhang proximal convoluted tubule. So, dito yung dumadaan yung mga nakokolect, yung nafi-filter ng glomerulus mo. So, ang mangyayari, the pressure or the hydrostatic pressure inside in your capillary dito, inside here, the pressure inside here is greater than the pressure here. Kaya, the movement of solute or fluid is from intravascular to extravascular. So, ito yung mga puwersa. Ito yung the force. This force will is responsible for filtration. So, pinapalabas niya. Okay? Pinapalabas niya yung mga polar substances. The pressure here plays an important role because there are certain physiologic na disturbances that can affect the filtration of the glomerulus. Especially if you have hypovolemia. For example, you have excessive bleeding, so you lost great amount of fluids in the body, blood. So, nagka-hypovolemia ka. Remember, kapag maliit yung volume ng fluid sa katawan mo, mahihina rin yung pressure. And it will affect the blood pressure in your kidney. So, you will expect na hihina rin yung glomerular filtration ng yung kidney kapag mababa ang pressure. Okay? So, again, intracapillary pressure is greater than the tubular lumen pressure. Kaya, merong filtration na nangyayari. So, mechanical filtration across capillary walls, pores of adjacent epithelium of Bowman's capsule into the lumen of the tubule is the actual glomerular filtration. And also remember that your filtrates or yung mga na-filter na or yung mga nasala, okay, di ba lalabas sila dito? Lalabas sila dyan. lalabas sila. Remember that your filtrates are protein-free, meaning dapat walang proteins na nakikita because nakita nyo, ang laki-laki ng proteins. May molecular weight na more than or equal to 60,000 to 70,000 ang molecular weight. They are very big. So, how can they pass through sa pores? Diba? Ang laki nila. So, clinical application, if you can see protein in your urinalysis, have you seen a urinalysis result, diba? Isa sa parameter dun is the protein or the albumin. Normally, dapat negative. Pero, kapag positive yun, or meron yung makikita nyo plus dyan, there's presence of protein, which is not normally seen in unhealthy individual. Ibig sabihin, merong something wrong sa yung kidney and entails further investigation. So, urinalysis is an important screening test for your kidney function. Tsaka, albuminuria, yun nga, meron kang nakitang protein or albumin sa yung ihi, which is dapat wala ka makita. Since marami yung lumalabas na protein sa yung ihi, you will expect na yung protein mo sa plasma or sa dugo, yung albumin mo sa plasma will decrease kasi nga lumabas sila sa katawan. If you still remember the oncotic pressure, the colloidal oncotic pressure, ito yung pressure inside your capillary that draws back the fluid. Okay, di ba? Ito yung let's erase. Di ba ito yung blood vessel mo? Sabi natin, kapag mataas yung hydrostatic pressure, yung mga tubig or fluid or solutes, lalabas sila. Okay? Intravascular to extravascular. Pero, yung lumabas, dapat silang pumasok pabalik. Okay? They should return. They should not stay there. The reason why pinalabas natin yung fluid kasi meron silang i-deliver na nutrients. Pag tapos na nilang na-deliver yung nutrients, dapat yung mga fluids na yun babalik sa katawan. Paano sila makakabalik? Makakabalik sila kasi meron tayong tinatawag na colloidal osmotic pressure or the oncotic pressure. Ito yung oncotic pressure na naghihila or puwersa na naghihila ng tubig or fluid papasok sa loob ng blood vessels. At saka, sino ang may responsibility ng osmotic pressure na ito? I mean, the oncotic pressure, osmotic or oncotic pressure. This is the solute inside your blood vessel. So, please review your osmosis, no? Osmosis principle. Ito yung na-apply dito. Kapag marami yung solute here sa loob, mas mataas din yung oncotic pressure. Kapag mas mataas yung oncotic pressure, mas mataas yung solute, tsaka nandito yung mas maraming fluid kasi nga lumabas sila galing dito, maa-attract yung tubig pabalik. Kasi mas maraming solute dito, mas marami ang i-dilute. So, babalik sila dito. So, sino yung mga solute na tinutukoy? These are your blood elements. Ang isa na dito yung albumin. Ito yung may malaking contribution sa oncotic pressure kasi malalaki sila. So, they have the most contribution in the oncotic pressure intravascularly. Here, in application, may albuminuria ka na, meaning nilalabas mo sa ihi yung albumin mo. So, mababa yung plasma protein. Meaning, kapag mababa yung plasma protein, bababa yung solute level intravascularly. Kapag bababa yung colloidal osmotic pressure intravascularly, mababa din yung oncotic pressure. So, walang pressure or walang force na hihila ng mga tubig pabalik sa blood vessels. Anong mangyayari? They will stay here extravascularly sa mga tissues. Yan yung nakikita nyong edema. Okay? Pangmamanas. So, that's the mechanism of edema. And most of the patients having kidney problems, especially yung mga diabetic na nagda-dialysis, kapag hindi sila nakadialysis, na-observe nyo, namamanas sila, nag-edema sila, ng hupong in Bisaya. And you would know na yung pangmamanas na yun or edema na yun is caused by albuminuria when you pinch the part na may edema, it will create a pitting or lumalalim siya yung nagmamarka yung kamay mo. Because nag-exert ka ng effort, kapag nag-exert ka ng effort, nadi-displace yung tubig. Okay? So alam mo na yung problem is problema most likely yung kidney or the albuminuria. I hope you can na-gets na yung correlation. Okay, so now let's define the difference between the filtrate, the term reabsorption, secretion, and excretion. This is very important because sometimes na pagpapalit-palit sila, no? Pero they should not be used na ipalit or hindi mo sila dapat ipagpalit na term, especially in the context sa filtration or glomerular filtration. So, have you wondered, your glomerulus filters 180, again, 187 liters a day. Ibig sabihin, yung glomerulus mo, nakaka-filter sila ng 187 liters a day. Pero, bakit yung ihi mo, yung lumalabas na ihi, 1.5 liters approximately a day lang? Anong nangyayari? What happens along the way? So, meron tayong tinatawag na filtration, reabsorption, secretion, and excretion. Now, if you still remember the discussion kanina na ang efferent arterioles natin, kapag lumabas sila, nagiging peritubular capillaries, meaning sila yung mga capillaries na nagso-surround, no? They surround your tubules. Sinusurround nila yung lipofenley, yung proximal tubule, your distal tubule. So, anong purpose? So, ito yung purpose na yun. So, first, yung glomerulus natin, nag-filter sila. Then, di ba, yung blood dumadaan sa afferent arteriole, then yung glomerulus, dito yung actual filtration na nangyayari with the help of your hydrostatic pressure or intracapillary pressure. So, yung any fluid or solute na lumalabas, ito, from the glomerulus, they are called filtrates. Again, they are called filtrates. The product of filtration. So, filtration is from blood to lumen. Saan yung lumen? Di ba itong spaces na to? That's the lumen. Ito, yung loob ng tubule, that's the lumen. So, kapag nagiging filtrate sila, na-filter sila palabas, ibig sabihin, makakadaan na sila sa tubules dito. Yan. Pero, yung filtrates na ito, hindi ibig sabihin, lahat sila mai-excrete. When we say excretion, nakadaan na sila sa distal dito, no? Daan na sila dito. Tsaka, nakapunta na sila sa collecting duct. If nakarating ka na sa collecting duct, wala ka ng ibang papuntahan, kundi sa bladder. Bladder to external environment. Meaning, ipaalabas ka na sa katawan. Iihi yun ka. Kung naabot na ka sa collecting duct, iihi yun ka. That is what we call excretion. Pagawas na ka, excrete. Okay? Again, pag naana ka sa collecting duct, final destination na yun mo ang septic tank. Okay? Ihi na yun ka pagawas. Sa bladder nakapaingon. Ready to be expelled na ka. Pero, ang filtrate na ito, sabihin kanina, 187 liters yung nafi-filter ng ating glomerulus. Some of them are reabsorbed or secreted along the way to your collecting duct. So, what is reabsorption and secretion? Okay? Reabsorption is the transfer of fluid or solutes from lumen here to your peritubular capillaries to the systemic circulation. Ito yung process na binabalik yung fluids, tubig, solutes na dapat or kailangan pa ng katawan. So again, it's the transfer of materials or substances from lumen to blood because they are still needed. When we say secretion naman, ito yung gikan sa blood vessels papunta ng lumen. Okay? So, kapag yung gamot, for example, hindi siya na-filter dito kasi hindi siya makadaan or hindi enough yung pressure para siya lumabas. So, nakaka-exit pa siya. Pero pagdating dito sa peritubular capillary, pwede siyang ma-secrete. Again, ma-secrete. Ma-expel from your blood to the lumen. So, that is what we call the secretion. So, iba ang excretion, iba ang secretion. Yung excretion, yung sinabi ko kanina, excreted ka na sa katawan. Ang secretion, ang transfer of material substances from the blood to the lumen. And then, dalaan naman siya dito para mag-excrete. I hope that is clear. So, there are factors affecting your glomerular filtration rate or your GFR. First is the direct influence of blood flow through the kidney, and then there are drugs that affecting the blood flow through the kidney. So, these are the factors that can affect the rate of how fast or slow the glomerulus can filter. Pag mababa yung blood flow, pag mababa ang blood flow, mababa ang pressure, then mababa ang glomerular filtration rate. Okay? Kapag yung drugs mo, pinapa-decrease yung heartbeat mo, it will affect the cardiac output. Then it will affect the blood flow. And affected yung pressure papunta ng kidney. Therefore, bababa yung GFR. So, let's examine in detail the kidney's role in blood filtration and its significant vascular supply. Although the kidneys account for only 0.5% of total body weight, they receive the substantial 20 to 25% of the cardiac output, a reflection of their critical role in maintaining homeostasis. Blood is delivered to the kidneys via the renal artery, which branches into interlobal arteries. These arteries penetrate the kidney, dividing further into afferent arterioles. Each afferent arteriole serves a single nephron, delivering blood to the glomerulus located within the Bowman's capsule. The filtration process begins in the glomeruli, where blood is filtered as it passes through the capillaries with Bowman's capsule. The filtered blood exits the glomerulus through efferent arteriole, which lead to a secondary capillary network surrounding the tubular structures of the nephron. This network includes the peritubular capillaries and then the vasa recta, which surrounds the loop of Henle. In this tubular system, some of the water is reabsorbed, emphasizing the kidney's role in balancing fluid and solute levels in the body. This vascular arrangement ensures an efficient filtration and reabsorption process, supporting the kidney's essential functions. So let's look at the application of your renal plasma flow or the renal blood flow. Renal blood flow or the renal plasma flow is the amount of blood passing through the kidney each minute. It is quite a lot, no? Over 1.2 liters every minute, or about 1,700 liters per day, or 1,800 liters per day. That's your kidneys getting plenty of blood to do their job of filtering and cleaning. Now, there's also something called renal plasma flow or the RPF. This is similar to your RBF but doesn't include the red blood cells. We know that the the plasma is a blood without your RBCs. Think of renal plasma flow as just the liquid part of the blood, which includes water, nutrients, and waste. This is important because it's the part that gets filtered by the kidneys to remove waste product, including drugs. A key factor here is the hematocrit, the HCT, that's the hematocrit, which is simply the percentage of blood made up of red blood cells, usually about 45%. So when calculating RPF or renal plasma flow, just subtract the volume taken up by red blood cells from the total blood flow. This gives us a better idea of how much plasma is available for filtration. When we talk about renal blood flow, we mean all the bloods flowing to the kidney, right? But not all of this blood is available for filtration, because there are blood inside which don't get filtered. That's where the renal plasma flows comes in. It's the part of the blood that is just the fluid portion. Example, if the renal blood flow, meaning the blood, meron pang mga RBC, is 1.2 liters or 1,200 ml. And sa 1,200 ml na yan, 45% of that is red blood cell or your hematocrit. So what is 45% of 1,200 ml? It's 55%. So meaning, yung plasma, yung fluid or blood na wala ng red blood cell is 55% of 1.2 liters. Ito yung wala ng RBC. Okay? At saka, kasi sabi niya ito yung red blood cell, ito po yung meron pang RBC. So, ima-minus natin yung mga RBC contains, no? Sabi niya 45% doon. 45% ng ng RBF mo, which is 1.2 or 1,200 ml, RBC. So, just subtract the 45% and that is your renal plasma flow. Meaning, ito yung na-filter, yung lumabas doon sa glomerulus. Meaning, there is 660 ml per minute or about 950 liters per day of plasma flowing through the kidney. So, the amount of blood flowing to an organ like kidney depends on two things. The pressure. So, blood moves because of a difference in pressure between the arteries and veins. Resistance, the second factor. This is how much the blood vessels push back against the flow, which depends on how narrow they are. In the kidneys, the blood pressure starts at around 100 mmHg, no? In the renal artery and drops to about 45 to 60 in the glomerulus. This drop in pressure happens because the blood vessels in the kidney are very narrow, creating resistance. This resistance now helps control the GFR, which is how much blood is filtered in the glomerulus. If there is low resistance, then you would expect low filtration. If there is great resistance, meaning the smaller the diameter, the greater is the resistance, the greater is the pressure, then there is great glomerular filtration rate. Now, here's something amazing about the kidney. They have a self-regulation system called your autoregulation. This means that they can keep blood flow and filtration steady, even if your overall blood pressure changes a lot. For example, when your blood pressure is a bit low or high, the kidneys adjust to make sure filtration stays consistent. Example here, if you're doing exercise, no? If you exercise, your pressure may increase a bit. However, your glomerular filtration will stay the same because of the autoregulation. And because of also of the autoregulation, the ratio of the GFR to plasma flow stays stable. This balance crucial for kidneys to keep working effectively kahit na merong konting changes sa katawan. However, if there is now a great change, kaya example yung excessive blood loss, then first autoregulation will take ka ng mag-help yung autoregulation, pero kapag hindi niya kaya, yun na yung redirection of blood flows. In a healthy adult, the kidneys filter an impressive amount of fluid. Yung na-mention natin kanina, around 180 liters per day. But there's amazing part, no? Even though so much fluid is filtered, most of it, 99% of it are reabsorbed back in the body. This is why the average person produces only about 1 to 1.5 liters of urine per day. The kidneys are not just about filtering water, they also carefully regulate the levels of various solutes and electrolytes, such as your sodium, potassium, and chloride. Most small molecules, including essential nutrients like glucose and ions, pass through the kidney's filtering system. The filtered fluid are called the filtrates, also contains waste products like urea and substances like byproducts of the drug. After filtration, the kidneys reabsorb the nutrients and water. Then this happens in different parts of the nephron. As discussed, reabsorption and secretion involve both the active process and passive process. So what's left in the urine is mostly waste product, excess electrolytes, and drug residues. Interestingly, the kidney also have specialized proteins like your PGP that help pump out drugs in the urine. Plus, they contain enzymes such as CYPs, which can break down drugs, affecting how quickly they're cleared from the body. In short, no, the kidney are not just about making urine. Their system for balancing fluids, electrolytes, and clearing waste and drugs are efficient. There are methods where kidney can get rid of the drugs in your body, especially those water soluble, small in size, and not broken down by the liver. So we have here the glomerular filtration, yung dumaan sa glomerulus, yung nafi-filter. Meron tayong tubular secretion. And then we have also the tubular reabsorption. In the glomerular filtration, think of this as a filter at the start of the kidney's work. Small molecules like drugs pass through them, very easy. They're not, and remember that only those unbound drugs can pass through the glomerulus. But those drugs that are still bound, they cannot pass through the filtering system. So they are not excreted in the body through glomerular filtration. The pressure in the kidney's tiny blood vessels help push the fluid through this filter, and this process handles a lot of drug removal. Next, the active tubular secretion. Here, the kidney uses energy to actively pull certain drugs out of the blood into the urine. Yung pabalik, di ba? Blood to the tubule. This process works even if there's already a lot of the drug in the urine. Its selective specific carriers in the kidney works on certain types of drug like your weak acid or weak bases. Drugs with similar structure can compete for the same carriers. This system is fast and can clear drugs efficiently, especially those like with penicillin, which might otherwise stick to protein in the blood. Next, the tubular reabsorption. After filtering, the kidney can take some drugs or substances back into the blood, depending on what the body needs. This happens either passively or actively. Whether a drug gets reabsorbed depends on its property and pH of the urine. For example, drugs that are non-ionized are more likely to be reabsorbed because they can cross back into the bloodstream easily. Urine pH, which can vary based on diet, health, and medication, plays a big role. Acidic urine reabsorbs weak acids more. Acid plus acid, they do not create um, ions. So, they are nonpolar. They can be reabsorbed. While acidic urine, then you have, I mean, if you have acidic urine and then you have weak base, then your substance can be ionized and can be excreted in the body. While why urine pH matters? Urine pH can range from 4.5 to 8. Things like diet, no, for example, more proteins, you are meat eater, makes your urine acidic. While if you are vegan or you eat more of vegetables, then more likely urine is alkaline. Or the medication, if you remember vitamin C acidifies urine, while the antacids make it alkaline. They can affect the pH of the urine. Doctors can even change urine pH using IV fluids to help eliminate certain drugs faster. Drugs like your glucose, which are completely reabsorbed, barely show up in the urine. Others, depending on their chemical makeup and the urine pH, they may be reabsorbed less and excreted more. This balance of filtration, secretion, and reabsorption ensures the kidneys effectively eliminate waste, maintaining balance, and adapt to different conditions. So here now an example. Drugs like your amphetamine, which is a weak base, behave differently in the kidneys depending on the pH, how acidic or how alkaline your urine. So the excretion of your amphetamine, no? The what's our amphetamine? Especially if you put the meth, that's your shabu. In the urine, if the urine is alkaline, then you have amphetamine in your blood. Amphetamine becomes more neutral and non-ionized. So if your amphetamine is non-neutral or non-ionized, because nga you have alkaline urine, in the States, it's more fat soluble and easily reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, meaning less is excreted. However, if your urine is acidic and then you have amphetamine in your blood, acid plus base, it becomes ionized. So they are charged. Then they are polar. This ionized form is water soluble and doesn't get reabsorbed easily. So more of it gets flushed out in the urine. For weak acids like salicylic acids, it's opposite. In acidic urine, weak acids are neutral and more likely to be reabsorbed in the body. In alkaline urine, they become ionized, more water soluble, and are excreted faster. So how kidney drugs process, no? How the kidney process your drugs? The kidney removes drugs through a combination of process, the filtration, active secretion, and reabsorption. So here's another example, your sulfasalazole. This medication commonly used to treat UTI. They belong to a group of drugs called sulfonamides, which are well absorbed when taken by mouth and leave the body in high amounts through urine. Sulfonamides are processed in the body and turned a form that is less water soluble. In acidic urine, both the drug and its metabolite can crystallize, which might block the kidney's tiny tubules and lead to kidney damage. So, what is your advice? Since they form crystals, advise the patient to drink plenty of water. Keeping the urine slightly alkaline helps prevent the drug from crystallizing. So, staying hydrated and maintaining a healthy urine pH are the key steps to safely using the sulfonamides. So, if sulfonamides, you advise to drink a lot of water after taking them. Assignment: please list a list of urine acidifiers and alkalinizers. Write on yellow paper and submit it at the next meeting. Now we move on to the drug clearance. So drug clearance is a term and used to describe how the body gets rid of a drug without going to specific details of how it's done. It's like measuring how much of a drug is eliminated from the body. But instead of focusing how much drug is removed over time, clearance looks at how much volume of fluid is needed to remove the drug over a certain time period. You can think of clearance as the body working like a container with a certain volume of fluid and the drug is dissolved in it. Clearance tells us how much of the fluid is cleared away each minute or hours. For example, if a person's clearance for penicillin is 15 ml per minute, it means that 15 ml of the fluid containing penicillin is removed every minute. Another way to think about clearance is to look on how quickly the drug is eliminated compared to how much of the drug in the bloodstream. So this helps us to calculate the clearance using the drug concentration in the blood. Clearance measures how effective the body removes the drug from the bloodstream, it can be understood in two main ways. The volume of plasma cleared per minute and product of distribution and elimination rates. The volume of plasma cleared per minute, this shows how much blood is cleared of drug each minute. While this product of distribution and elimination process, clearance is the result of how much drug is distributed in the body. So your volume of distribution and how quickly its elimination. First order elimination, when the drug is eliminated at a rate proportional to its concentration in the blood, clearance stays constant. As the plasma drug concentration decreases, the rate of elimination slows down, but the clearance remains steady. Some of clearances, this clearance include all the ways the drug leaves the body. It might be through liver, kidney, or other processes. It adds up all these routes of elimination, except for the lungs. In complex cases, like multi-compartment models, where the drug distributes into central and peripheral compartments, the clearance is tied to how the drug is eliminated from the central compartment. Clearance can also be adjusted for body weight or body surface area. For example, children and adults might have different clearance rate due to size differences. So practical note, on adjustment. Clearance doesn't scale directly the body size. Instead, it often follows an allometric scaling where clearance is proportional to body weight raised to the power of 0.75. This method helps predict clearance across individuals of different sizes more accurately. In short, clearance tells us how fast a drug is removed from the blood, considering distribution, elimination, adjustment for body size. So using a rate constant and volume of distribution, it assumes a specific model, such as the one-compartment or multi-compartment model, which the drug's movement and elimination are described mathematically. Clearance is calculated as the product of elimination rate constant, or your K, and the volume of distribution. However, this approach may not always be accurate if the chosen model doesn't match the actual way of the drug behaves in the body. Using the non-compartmental method, this approach calculates clearance directly from plasma drug concentration data over time. It doesn't require assuming any specific model or compartments, making it more flexible and broadly applicable. So in general, clearance is often through as the product. Again, clearance is the product of rate constant and volume of distribution. But this formula doesn't always hold true. The rate of drug elimination doesn't always follow simple first-order kinetic. So more general equations are used in cases where elimination is more complex. While compartmental models assume a structured model, non-compartmental model offers a more general and adaptable way to estimate drug clearance directly from data. So we will discuss the physiologic model of the clearance. So there are factors that plays an important role in the organ clearance, especially in the kidney. First is the blood flow, which represented by the Q. So this is how much blood reaches the organ. And then next factor is the extraction ratio, or the E, which is the fraction of the drug removed as the blood passes through the organ. So the formula of clearance is blood flow times the extraction ratio, as the if you can see the formula below the figure. Cl, or the organ, equals Q, or the organ times the E. Okay, E of the organ. Blood flow times extraction ratio. If an organ removes a higher percentage of the drug, which means it has a high extraction ratio, or receives more blood flow, its clearance will be higher. Again, if the organ receives more blood flow and it removes a higher percentage of drug, it has a high extraction ratio, the clearance will be higher. By understanding the clearance for specific organs like the liver and kidneys, we can predict how the body process a drug and adjust doses if necessary, especially for patients with reduced organ function. When blood flows into the organ, it carries a certain amount of drug. After the blood passes through the organ, the amount of drug in the blood that leaves the organ is usually lower because some of the drug has been removed or extracted by the organ. Through the how to measure the extraction ratio or the E, we have here the value of Ca, which is the concentration of the drug in the blood entering the organ, and then the Cv, the concentration of the drug in the blood leaving the organ. Again, how to know the extraction ratio? We have to know the concentration of the drug na pumasok sa organ at concentration of the drug na um, concentration of the drug in the blood na lumabas sa organ. If the organ extracts some of the drug, the extraction in the blood leaving the organ will be lower than the concentration in the blood entering. To calculate how much drug the organ has removed, we use the formula as indicated at the bottom left. This gives us the extraction ratio, which tells us how much drug has been taken out by the organ. The higher the E, the more drug the organ has extracted. Organ clearance refers to how much drug is removed by organ by the blood over time, di ba? So the ability of the organ to clear a drug depends on two factors. The flow rate, again, the blood flow rate, how much blood flows to the organ, and then the elimination ability, how effective the organ is at removing the drug. So the total clearance refers how much the drug is removed as a whole. And it is usually a constant amount that relates to the volume where the drug is distributed. To measure organ clearance, this approach, the physiologic model, this model uses the blood flow and how much drug the organ is removing or the extraction ratio. These data are needed when we use this physiologic model. So, in a one-compartment model, the rate of drug elimination is linked to two key factors, the distribution or the volume of distribution and the elimination rate constant. However, there is also a method that we call non-compartmental method, which does not require assuming in a specific model about how the drug behaves in the body. Instead, it looks at the area under the curve or area under the concentration time curve or the AUC to estimate the clearance. This approach is often called the model independent, but it's not completely free from assumption. It still assumes that drug concentration decreases in a certain way during the final phase of elimination. So in this approach, it's easy to calculate clearance without needing to know complex rate constant. It also provides useful information about the drug's distribution volume and how much the drug is in the body after a dose. It works well when we have good data from sampling drug concentrations at different times with minimal need for complicated models. This method is this method is especially useful in clinical settings when you want a straightforward way to estimate how the drug behaves in the body without getting into detailed models. So when a compound is filtered only by the glomerulus and not otherwise acted on by the kidney, meaning not reabsorbed or secreted, Inulin and creatinine is the best way to study your glomerular filtration rate because they are filtered through the glomerulus only, meaning hindi sila nare-reabsorb or they are not secreted. Once they pass through the glomerulus, they are automatically filtered out because they are not reabsorbed. So dapat na-filter out sila kasi especially as a physiologic determinants of GFR in the body, the creatinine, it's a waste product. Ito yung mini-measure natin. So there are two ways to measure your creatinine. We have the renal creatinine and the blood creatinine level. So what's the implication if I have a increased creatinine level in the blood? Again, normally this creatinine must be thrown out, no? Must be thrown out in the body. Dapat silang na-excrete out in the body kasi they are a waste product. So, hindi rin sila na-reabsorb at hindi rin sila nasi-secrete. They are just filtered out in the glomerulus. So, yung ways nila para ma-excrete in the body is filtration. So, ano mangyayari kapag mataas yung creatinine level sa katawan or in the blood? Meaning, your body is not filtering well. Your glomerulus does not make functioning well. Meaning, sira yung glomerulus mo. Kasi nga, hindi niya napapalabas yung creatinine na lumalabas. So, may nagsistay yung creatinine sa blood. Okay? Because the normal creatinine clearance in adult is 120 ml per minute. That's the normal creatinine clearance. But, if your creatinine clearance is less than 120 ml per minute, meaning you have a lesser GFR, your glomerulus is filtering not so well. So, ito yung in a clinical setting, ginagamit yung creatinine. However, in a studies, no, especially in a drug clinical studies, they do not use creatinine but they use inulin. The inulin, it's not insulin, it's inulin. Inulin is a carbohydrate that same with your creatinine, they are filtered out in the glomerulus. They do not reabsorb and not secreted. Same purpose. So again, kapag yung creatinine mo sa blood mas mataas, no? Meaning you have a problem in filtration. If your creatinine clearance naman, meaning yung ihi mo, no, mas maliit lang yung creatinine level sa ihi than the blood, same implication. I hope it is clear. So here is the tubular transport of drugs. So how they are being reabsorbed or secreted, no? So we know that glomerular filtration is the process of making your urine. So formation is from lumina of tubulin to efferent capillaries and vice versa for the reabsorption and secretion. The transport can use passive diffusion or active transport. Passive diffusion depends on the concentration gradient, pH, pKa, lipid solubility, you know that already. And only those unionized form can pass the membrane. And then yung urine pH, normally, it has a 4.8 to 7.5 pH with average of 5.8. So, there is a renal absorption that will happen if or depends on the pH of the urine. As mentioned, as mentioned by the example na yung amphetamine, no, depende on the pH of the urine, the absorption or the excretion of your amphetamine. So the figure or the figure on the right, no, these are the drugs excreted into urine in dependence of pH. Okay, so there are drugs that clearance is greater in acidic urine because the drugs are basic in nature, and if the drug are weakly acidic in nature, then their clearance in alkaline urine is greater. Again, Reiteration, the assignment, list of urine acidifiers and alkalinizers. Here are some drug examples that are secreted, again secreted by active transport into the tubuli, meaning from the blood vessels to the tubules. Bumabalik sila sa tubules, okay, to be excreted or baka secrete, pre-absorb, secrete, pre-absorb. So, ganun lang yun. So, we have here your PAH or aminohippuric acid. So, they are not filtered through the glomerulus. So, they are actively secreted. So, it is naman kabaliktaran sa yung inulin at saka creatinine. Di ba yung inulin at saka creatinine mo, sila yung nafi-filtered out. They are not secreted nor reabsorbed. Once na nakalabas sila dun sa tubule, diretso na sila. Ito naman si PAH mo, si PA, ito naman, hindi sila nafi-filtered dun sa glomerulus. So, dumadaan lang sila sa glomerulus. Pero, pagdating nila dun sa pericapillary tubules or sa peritubular capillary, nasisecrete sila. And this one method to know the renal plasma flow and then the blood flow of your through your kidney. Okay, so to discuss more on the renal clearance, no, we know that this measures the kidney's ability to remove drugs from the blood. In biological perspective, it's balance of three processes: the filtration, secretion, and reabsorption, as what I have defined. These three entities are different. So to calculate the renal clearance, we take the total amount of drug filtered and secreted, subtract any reabsorbed amount, and divided by the drug concentration in the blood. Again, paano natin nalalaman ang renal clearance? So, there are drugs that are filtered, yung lumabas from glomerulus, and there are drugs that are secreted. So, i-add natin yung dalawa. Meaning, sila yung dalawa na present in the tubule, na ready lalabas. Minus the reabsorption. Meaning, yung mga gamot na na-reabsorb na bumalik. Okay? From tubule to the blood circulation. If the drug is only filtered, again, if the drug is only filtered by the kidney, they are not secreted or reabsorbed, its clearance rate is equal to the GFR. Okay, the glomerular filtration rate. Kasi nga, filtration lang yung way niya para ma-excrete sa body. So, yung ginagamit natin kanina, such as the inulin, no, the reference, because inulin is filtered by the kidney and not reabsorbed or secreted. If the kidney removes a drug only by filtration, the drug isn't bound to protein in the body, and they are not reabsorbed back into the body from the urine. Then the amount of drug filtered by the kidney at any moment is just the blood drug concentration times the glomerular filtration rate. If the drug clearance through the kidney happens only by filtration, then it is the only way na we can say that it is equals to the glomerular filtration. So, bakit siya nagmamatter? Bakit natin dapat malaman kung filtration only lang ba or filtration and active secretion? Because doctors often use the creatinine clearance as a rough estimate of how well a patient's kidneys are working. So, by comparing the drug's clearance, clinician can figure out if the drug requires adjustment based on kidney's function. So, that's how the renal clearance and how they are filtered in the body is important. And I think this is the last topic in this chapter, the relationship of clearance to elimination, half-life, and volume of distribution. I already simplified the relationship. Now, if there is increase in volume of distribution, meaning there is a great amount of drugs in the blood, and we know that blood will flow through your kidneys, then you would expect that there is an increased renal clearance. Meaning, marami ang matatanggal sa katawan na gamot. And it will lead to decrease in elimination half-life. So, if there is also increase in cardiac output, remember cardiac output or affected by your cardiac output will affect the blood flow. And we know that blood flow is one of the key elements in the GFR. So if there is increase in blood flow, there is increase in renal blood flow, mas marami yung dugo na dadaloy papunta sa kidney, and there is also increase in plasma flow. Thus, in result, mas tataas yung glomerular filtration rate given na healthy yung glomerulus mo. And also, it will lead to decreased elimination half-life. And that concludes our topic for in this chapter. And thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. I hope you learned something. Please do read your book as we have our quiz maybe this coming Saturday or next Saturday. I will just announce the final date for the quiz. Thank you.